Call this meeting to order. We'll now have the flag salute. Yes, you may.
I move that the cameras that are facing the audience be turned off immediately.
I second that motion.
Questions or comments?
Yes. What is their purpose?
The purpose is the Montoursville Borough Police Chief recommended that a camera be put on the audience for documentation in case there is a problem. I won't say his exact words, but basically he said that when you take somebody to court, the camera doesn't lie when it's the word of an officer versus the word of a person that's being charged.
And when the meeting concludes, if the police have not been called, obviously there's been no unlawful conduct, so then those tapes will be erased.
Those tapes will be destroyed if there's no need from the law enforcement to have those tapes. Those tapes will be destroyed when the minutes of the next meeting, regular meeting, are approved. Those tapes will be destroyed.
I believe they should be destroyed immediately following the meeting.
I believe they should.
What would your point be in holding them? And who will hold them? Who will have access to them? And why?
They will be held by our solicitor.
I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with your solicitor holding them. I'm not comfortable with anybody holding them.
Mr. Snell. Mr. Snell.
I'm not finished. In my opinion, Mr. Snell, those tapes are good for two things and two things only. If there's no, if the police are not called here this evening, and those two things are intimidation and retaliation.
Mr. Ruffing, would you be comfortable with the secretary of the board to hold them tapes?
No, I would be comfortable with them to be destroyed immediately following the meeting. Not destroyed, but erased. There's no need for anybody to view those tapes to see who said what, and if the police don't need them, we don't need them.
Are you through?
For now.
We will now have a vote.
Now, Mr. Snell, we have a comment, please?
Yes.
Prior to the vote.
Yes.
My understanding is the previous board used cameras in this very fashion in a meeting that was held at the middle school. Is that correct? Is anybody on the board corroborate that?
Mr. Bowers?
I believe so, yes.
What was the purpose of those tapes being done at that time?
There was a request that we had to, I don't know that it was discussed, there was a request, and that what happened at, I'm not sure how many, 1 or 2 meetings, I believe.
Okay, so the precedent has been set. The cameras have been used by the school board in the past. board members, correct?
I believe it was at least one occasion.
Okay. And what was the school board policy at that time concerning the retention of the tapes or the data?
There is no board policy for that regard.
Okay, so it was never established at that time exactly what would be done with the tapes, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And to your knowledge, do you know what happened to the tapes? Were they destroyed immediately, or were they kept on film for a period of time?
I have no idea. I know they were never reviewed because we did not have anything that we felt we needed to review it for.
Okay, thank you. We're done, Mr. Snow.
Dr. Bowers, who held on to them tapes?
It's a good question. Maybe the technology department, Paul. I'm not sure if you had them, or maybe the high school office has them. They may have been videoed over by now. I'm not sure the answer to that question.
I believe that those tapes will be turned over to the secretary of the board so he can have control of them, and nobody that's not authorized can look at those tapes.
Will they be subject to right to know?
Yes, they are.
So anybody can come in to the school with the right to know and view those tapes?
Yes, they can.
I'll repeat my request and my motion that they be erased immediately after the meeting's over.
Mr. Snell, may I make a comment?
Yes.
Our policy, or rules, or whatever you call it, specifically allows videotaping, as you can see all through the audience, during these meetings. And those, Mr. Ruffing, you do not have control over where those go, or who views them, or what they're done, what's done with them. So, in fact, we actually have the policy, and as long as there's no disruption or blocking the aisles or anything like that, people are welcome to videotape or audio tape.
One thing to remember, Mr. Ruffin, this is a public meeting.
Yeah, I realize that. Are we setting a new precedent now that we're going to videotape and audio tape everybody that attends our meetings and everybody who speaks?
I don't believe it's a new precedent. It was already done.
Okay, is it going to continue?
I can't answer that question right now. It would all depend on how the meetings go, whether we feel that we need to do it. Mr. Ruffing, I don't want to do it any more than you do, but it's something that was recommended to us by law enforcement. Anything else?
Take a vote. Could you do that, excuse me, Mr. Snow, could you do that in roll call?
Yes, I can. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hagemeyer, do you, if I say yes, that's to keep it, or?
If you say you want to destroy them, you will vote yes. If you want to keep them until the minutes are approved at the next regular board meeting, you vote no.
Wasn't the motion originally that the camera be turned off? So if you vote yes, you're voting to turn off the camera. If you vote no, you're voting to leave.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you repeat that, Mr. Lance?
I thought the motion originally was to turn off the cameras.
That's correct.
So if you vote yes, you're voting to turn off the cameras. If you vote no, you're voting
And Mr. Snell, if the cameras remain on, then that film will be held by Mr. Stahl?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're voting, yes, turn the cameras off, no, leave the cameras on, correct?
Correct.
Then mine's a no.
Mrs. Johns?
No.
Mr. Kaplan?
No.
Mr. Conkle?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
No.
Mrs. Marriott?
Yes.
Mr. McCleary?
No.
Mr. Ruffing?
Yes.
Mr. Snell?
No. Motion is passed. They are not passed, they will stay on. There was an executive session prior to the board meeting concerning a personal matter. Now I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
Could I get a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yes. We have unfinished business from the last meeting. Not that I wish to address it at this time, but we have unfinished business from the last meeting.
And that being?
Answering questions. Answering questions. I had asked you a series of questions.
I'll answer your questions right now. Political candidates run on a platform before they're elected. After they're sworn in and the democratic process continues by way of having votes on their ideas contained in that platform. The votes were taken, and because of the democratic process, the majority votes passed that platform. That is your answer.
That really doesn't answer the question. The original question, would you like to repeat it?
Feel free.
Okay, it was a series of 4 issues. The first one was the hiring of Ben Landon that was done without any knowledge of the full 1/3 of the board. And also, I repeated that same question for the appointment of Joe Kaplan, the hiring of Bassett Engineering, and the motion that was made and approved to have all change orders approved by just Mr. Snell, himself, and Mr. Lowe. At the time, I had mentioned that 6 board members had clear and obvious prior knowledge that those actions would occur, while 3 of us, Mr. Lowe, or Mr. Conkle, and Mrs. Marriott and myself, knew nothing about it. And the question was, how did that occur? And who is responsible for us having no knowledge of that, while the other 2/3 of the board did? How did that happen?
And I'll repeat my answer. Political candidates run on a platform before they are elected. After they are
Answer the question.
I feel the need to remind everyone that this board has an expectation of reasonable decorum from the audience. There will be no cheering, clapping, booing, or interruptions during the meeting. Anyone not following these...
Answer the question.
Answer the question.
Hey, folks.
I move...
Folks, let them get through their minutes, please. Let them get through their minutes, please. Okay? Let's keep it down. Let them get through.
Mr. Snell, I'll withdraw the question at this time.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? All those in favor of approving the minutes of the previous meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
Motion passed. We move on to recognition awards and presentations. of which there is none.
Excuse me, Mr. Snell. Could we recognize our students that are the FBLA members that are moving on as far as awards recognition go? Is Mrs. Kaiser with us this evening?
Yes.
No, she's not here.
Mr. Taramino?
I don't know if she's here or not.
Okay. I have the article here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we have a number of FBLA students that were very successful at the competition at Penn College, and they'll be moving on to a state on? Is it state in Harrisburg, Hershey? Okay, I just wanted to let that be known and thank the FBLA students and Mrs. Kaiser for bringing some positive attention to our school district.
Thank you, Mr. Ruffin, for bringing that to my attention.
Thank you.
Now, I feel the need to remind everyone that the board has an expectation of reasonable decorum from the audience. I say again, there will be no cheering, clapping, booing, and no interruptions during the meeting. Anyone not following these rules will be asked to leave. If they refuse to do so, they will be asked by security to leave. If they refuse security, security will dial 911 and have law enforcement remove them. We have public comments for people to talk, and that's where we would like it to be. Following individuals who have submitted written requests to address the board: Danny Albert, Dora Paoli, and Jonathan Clark. Danny Albert, there will be 5 minutes per person. Danny Albert, you may come up and speak to the board.
Good evening. I'd like to share from you from the book of James 3:13 through 18. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but it's earthly, sensual, demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing will be there. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Know the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. On December 29th, I witnessed and was part of something that was, for lack of better words, very destructive. I myself was included in that, I let my emotions get the best. But the words I just read, I believe to be true. I believe to be true from the standpoint that this is the direction that we're heading. I was angry. I wrote out what I wanted to address as you know, to the board and to the public, what my stance is. Since then, I've been able to hash that out myself and look for the guidance I need to try to help you all, try to help this community. The truth never lies, no matter what it is. I truly believe, from what I witnessed at the last meeting, that many of you are not here for the good of me or this community. I believe that there's some personal issues maybe. I hear comments, people getting caught with their hands in a cookie jar. That doesn't get anything accomplished. We need to prioritize what's at hand. And these students, taxpayers, that's what needs to be addressed. Where are we going with this project? I've been a contractor for nearly 30 years. And when Mr. Bassett says it's not going to cost much to fix the lights, the handicap accessible areas, the heating system, the cooling system, I've been down that road. I've made mistakes. You don't always see everything that's there. No question, that old board, they did their homework. They may not have done everything right. I'm not saying that they did. But they served us in a manner that they were trying to give us what we need and what's best for this community. With that being said, I want the 5 new board members to really soul search themselves, as well as the rest of you. You're not going to get anything accomplished by badgering each other down. I'm just as much guilty as anybody else, and I can humbly stand here and say that. The thoughts that I have felt since December 7th have not been pure. They've been very, very unpure. Rightfully so. We're human. We're all make mistakes. But you all got to come together, and you got to do what's right. Do what's right for us as a community, as one. We're not divided. We may think we are, but we're not. We're strong. Let's get this taken care of and do it together. Thank you.
Mrs. Paoli.
I hate turning my back on you, but I guess it's so I felt frankly. My name is Dora Paoli. I lived at 14th Street for 53 years. I worked in the district 22 years. I served on the board 12 years. In the minority, I can talk about being in the minority and the power that the minority has. I feel like Mr. Arnold, I hope there's no kids in the audience that witness adults acting as they are. If you have the courage to come up and speak, get and run on the board. Don't shout out things. And give each other. I was on the board for 12 years. If I can remember, I never did a personal attack. I received personal attacks. I guess I want to say, we are seeing a democracy. There is a democracy in Washington. There is a democracy in Harrisburg. We run on a democracy. What is a democracy? For the people, by the people, and the majority. So let's boil this down. It not only was the majority once, it was the majority twice. People ask me what side I'm on. The side that won the majority. And if you were a good board member, a good citizen, you would go by the law of the land, which is the majority. Support these people. I know when I ran the first year, I was scared to vote. I didn't know what I was doing. They're only here 1 month. 1 month. And the expectations for them is to have everything resolved. We have a budget, I can't remember, 17 million, 2015. if I can read a letter, excuse my voice, I have a disturbance. This was written by Dr. Wagner, today's paper. It is unfortunate that 2.5 months after the election, there remains deep frustration, animosity on both sides. In a recent letter, a Montoursville resident, unhappy with the election, said the senior citizens, quote, of Montoursville were duped, and as a result, bankruptcy is around the corner. Those people knew what they were voting for. I mean, that's what an election is. Inflammatory rhetoric like this does nothing but perpetuate happening and dividing our community. Now is the time for reconciliation. It is time for both factions to put aside your grievances and move on and run the district. If reasonable compromise is needed, I love this sentence. Do it for the sake of the school, the students, and the town of Montoursville, which we.
Thank you, Mr. Delore. Mr. Cox.
Members of the board, my name is Jonathan Klotz. I live in 1860 Lick Run Road. I am a father, I am a taxpayer, and I am disappointed. I am disappointed in the lack of process, policy, and standards exhibited by this board. I am disappointed by the absence of transparency that just 2 months ago we were promised. Every single taxpayer in this district deserves better. Better communication, better process, and better transparency. You contributed, you committed to transparency. Where is it? I am disappointed by the lack of discussion on significant financial matters that impact all district taxpayers. I am disappointed that no board member asked the question that has been hanging over this community since the high school project was suspended. How much will suspending and terminating this project cost? Even if you already knew the answer to that question, airing it in a public forum would contribute to transparency. So I ask tonight, what is the daily cost of the suspended project? What is the cost and contractual penalties of terminating or modifying the contract? Will the bond issue cover these penalties? Or will they need to be paid by taxpayers with a tax increase immediately? I am disappointed in the process that was used to select a wastewater firm to complete a value engineering study of this project. Is that really the highest and best use of our taxpayer dollars? On December 8th, I submitted a right-to-know request to the district office asking for the bid documents for the value engineering project. I also asked for the Bassett value engineering proposal or contract. The documents supplied on December 15th consisted of a one-page list of questions with an attached list of information needed. There was no formal request for proposals. There was no written contract. I am disappointed that there is not a formal written proposal for this $60,000 project, yet at the very same meeting, a written proposal was required for a $36,310 project for Loyalsock Valley. Is it the policy of this board to commit taxpayer funds to vague verbal agreements? This list has been referred to as a scope of work. This is not a thorough and complete scope of work. I am disappointed that no open request for proposals was issued for this work, that it was handed to a firm without even a request for a statement of qualifications. I am disappointed that we, the taxpayers, will be paying markup on every single outside consultant that Bassett has to bring in because they are not on their staff. Fortunately for all of us, there's a way forward. There's a way to promote healing. There's a way to find resolution of the issues dividing this community. Open a request for proposals to architecture and engineering firms outside of Lycoming County. Select a firm that has no bias, no vested interest, no skin in the game. Select a firm that has significant secondary school design and project management experience. Select an objective, expert firm to find the most fiscally responsible approach to providing the educational facilities that our children need. This assessment should include an evaluation of the Pennsylvania Department of Education funding already committed to the project and the impact of any changes to the approved plans on that funding. There are 191 American Institute of Architecture firms specializing in institutional design located within 150 miles of this building. You will not find Bassett Engineering on this list. You will not find his subcontracted architect on this list. I stand to ask this board right now to make a motion to terminate the verbal agreement with Bassett Engineering and immediately issue a request for proposals by invitation to qualified firms with no previous relationship with the Montoursville Area School District for an unbiased evaluation of the current project, to recommend the most fiscally responsible use of funds to complete or modify the high school construction project without increasing costs. Will you make this motion? Will you stand up for the taxpayers and make this motion?
I will make that motion.
I will second.
This community is better than this. You, all I believe, are better than this. Do the right thing.
We've had a motion and a second to suspend Bassett Engineering's contract.
Terminate. I believe we
Terminate.
Terminate. Would you like to read the whole motion, Mr. Ruffin?
I don't have that motion in front of me, but
So the secretary gets it correct.
okay, I would make the motion to immediately terminate what is not a contract, a scope of work with Bassett Engineering until we have time to investigate this further.
And we got a second.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Snell?
Yes.
Mr. President, do you have any comment?
Yes.
We're talking about, what, 2 weeks here, I believe, till the final report is due.
That is correct.
Is that correct? And at that time, we'll be given, hopefully, all the information that Mr. Bassett can give to us at that time, there's not a report, correct?
Correct.
Now, Mr. Ruffin has made issue of the fact that we are taking time to review things. However, this would delay things even more, so therefore the cost of either suspending or terminating contracts would increase. So I'm not sure what the payoff is going to be for a 2-week delay when we get the final report and ask for more time to go back and delay the decision even longer, which will inevitably cause increase in cost.
Mr. President, report?
Yes.
I believe we have the firm. We hired the firm that can do the job. And I believe we as a board need to come together to a resolution with Crabtree and Associates and Mr. Cassidy. I believe we have the right people to make those decisions. We're already paying them to do that. I would suggest that we stick with Crabtree. We did the interviews. We interviewed 3 to 4 firms. We chose Crabtree because we thought they were the best for this community. And I believe we need to go back to Crabtree, speak with them as a board, as a whole board, and bring this to a conclusion to move forward. We can't afford to tear that down. We will go bankrupt if we tear that down. I think we have the right, and nothing against Britt. I have nothing against Bassett Engineering whatsoever. I think we have the right firm, and I think we need to move forward with Crabtree.
Mr. Conkle, what you have to realize is Crabtree, Rohrball, and Associates have not been fired.
I didn't say that. I said we need to move forward with that. Because we already employ them. We're already paying them. We're not giving them another $60,000. We move forward. We're still under the contract, correct? As long as we stay in the scope of work. We're paying them. They're sitting right here.
Correct.
So why can't we talk to them to try to move forward?
I think we will talk to them, and I think it's a good idea. I also think that it's a good idea to have Britt, Bassett Engineering, continue with their assessment and give us a reading in 2 weeks.
I would disagree with that, but that's fine. That's why we're here.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Snell,
Yes.
by waiting, I withdraw. Thank you.
Would you read that motion?
I have, the motion is to immediately terminate the scope of work with Bassett Engineering to investigate further. I put in place there the value engineering study. Mr. Ruffing had said. I forget what he said at the end of it, it was rather vague. I hope that captures what you were.
To generalize, to investigate this further, and it would tie in with Mr. Conkle's suggestion that maybe we don't have to investigate it further. We're paying for a job that's already been done. I don't know how you want to word that.
So all those,
I need to clarify exactly what the motion is, because I'm still confused. I think, is your motion to
My motion is to terminate.
To
terminate any scope of work agreement with Bassett Engineering. A yes vote would mean that you would like to terminate at this time.
Mr. Secretary, would you take a roll call vote, please? A yes vote would indicate termination of Bassett Engineering.
Mr. Hegemeyer.
No.
Mrs. Johns.
No.
Mr. Kaplan.
No.
Mr. Conkle.
Yes.
Mr. Lowe.
No.
Mrs. Marriott.
Yes.
Mr. McCleary.
No.
Mr. Ruffing.
Yes.
And Mr. Snell.
No. The motion did not pass. Now we will move on to public comments regarding agenda items. People coming up to speak will get 3 minutes per person for a maximum of 30 minutes. State your name and address, please.
Michael Kraft, I live at 71 Carrot Square in Fairfield Township. Members of the school board, Montoursville School District, thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting. I'd like to comment on the agenda items to be covered in the reports by Bassett Engineering and Crabtree Rohrbach Associates, and how the board may generally address those items. First, some background may be in order. In my professional life, I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Lycoming Engines, perhaps the largest manufacturer in Lycoming County and the employer of many in this community. For more than 85 years, we've been making aircraft engines used around the world. My job at the end of the day is to provide the leadership to ensure that that factory and the 400 plus jobs that we support remain in place for another 85 years. Today, however, I stand before you as a private citizen, a property owner, an unpaid assistant swim coach, and a parent also volunteered to be the spokesperson for the Montoursville Community One movement. To directly answer some questions posted on the various Facebook sites, I can confirm that I am a real person, not a synonym. I do sincerely believe that as a community we can find a way forward. This past Sunday, Montoursville Community One placed an advertisement in the Sun Gazette. To some, it was over the top. On behalf of MC1, I apologize if it was any way offensive. The harsh reality, however, is that that advertisement well captures the very difficult situations the board faces. As the board knows, all the documentation of the high school project, from conception to construction, is public information available under the district's right to know policy. Some of us in the community have read through the actual documents, some in their entirety. The questions MC1 has posed on the advertisement are very real issues to deal with. And to be blunt, the immediate situation overall is ugly. The key question on the table is whether or not this board, how this board, is willing to navigate a way forward through the dark. On Sunday, the Sun Gazette also published a letter to the editor by Montoursville Community One. The letter was not ugliness. It was an offer to assist the board in finding a way forward. It was an introduction to the possibility that there may just be a way forward without the vitriol, without the personal attacks, and without suppression of the minority by the majority. We still need the emotions and the passion, because that's the energy that fuels progress. We can't rely on passion alone. So the question before all of us, not just the board, is how are we going to move forward? The high school project is just one, and the most urgent issue. We all know there will be other difficult issues to resolve. So what's our proposal? Step one is to find the common cause, our North Star. Montoursville Community One will propose that the common ground for all of us here today lies in the realization that the educational system is the single biggest asset we have as a community, regardless if you have children in the system or not.
I'm giving you extra time.
Step two.
I would ask you to complete.
I'll be done in just a moment. Step two is to agree how we can agree. Montoursville Community One would propose that it is possible to reach a consensus decision that can be supported by all board members. Each board member, on their own, would need to pledge better to believe that they can reach a consensus decision. And each needs to help their fellow board members along the way. And yes, that is a far more difficult process than calling for a yay or a nay on the vote. Step three is to get the community on board. That is a difficult task, but in my internal optimism, it is certainly possible. I'm guessing that many of the audience today can share the optimism if we could just see a hint of light at the end of the tunnel. Montoursville Community One has proposed that the board form a Citizens Advisory Committee
Thank
to
you,
assist.
sir. Thank you.
I'd like to finish up here. We're done.
There's other people that would like to speak.
Mr. Snell, I'd like to make a motion that we give the speaker additional time. He's trying to relay a positive message. God knows we can all use it.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. I'm sorry. I would suggest, I know you have a positive message there that you're trying to relay.
Let's hear it.
But I would suggest you put in a form and at the next board meeting, get the total of 5 minutes to finish your message. I'm sorry.
Mr. President, you have the power within your board policy to extend the time period for which I'm able to speak on your own. I request that you do that, please, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to allow this gentleman to finish because it was a positive message that he's trying to send. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Snell?
Aye.
Mr. Snell?
Questions or comments?
Thank you. Could you put a time limit on the extension?
I would ask you how much more time you will need.
Maximum.
2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Max.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So step 3 is to get the community on board. That's a difficult task, but in my eternal optimism, it is certainly possible. I'm guessing that many in the audience today can share that optimism. We can just see a hint of light at the end of the tunnel. And I think we just saw it. Montoursville Community 1 has proposed that the board form a Citizens Advisory Committee to assist. To be effective, a key qualification of every member of that committee would be agreement and the belief that we can reach consensus. And finally, step 0. First, do no harm. We have a patient, a community that is bleeding. Indecisions and delays right now will cost this patient their life. Yes, we do need to look at options going forward, but a review of the options is not contradictory to making decisions now. At this meeting, to prevent the community from harm, and to put it bluntly, getting nothing in return for our taxpayer dollars. To close on my comments today, since we launched MC1, that effort, we received a lot of questions as to how we got started, who we are, and how people can join. To this I can respond that Montoursville Community 1 is not an organization. It's an idea. Started by a group of people from many walks of life, bound together by the realization that our educational system is the heart of this community. It becomes a movement on its own. How do you join? The simple answer is if you believe in the ideas behind what we have written and spoken today, you have already joined. Mr. Schnell, Mr. McCleary, Ms. Johns, Mr. Ruffin, Mr. Lowe, Ms. Marriott, Mr. Hagemeyer, Mr. Compo, Mr. Kaplan. In all of our lives, we are presented with singular moments of clarity that are opportunities for each of us to step forward and lead. They are chances to make a difference that will be remembered long after we are gone, if we are willing to seize the opportunity. One of those moments is before you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Dave Schimmel, 1201 Spruce Street, familiar face. I just wanted to follow up. A couple weeks ago, I spoke about costs that would occur to the district, losses to the district for the project to be canceled. And I guess I wanted to recover a couple of those items, but I thought of a few more things that occurred during the last couple of weeks that are pretty stark. We talked about the $3 million in engineering and design, professional fees, permitting, and all that. And we've spent that money. It's gone. We've invested that money, you might say, too. We talked about the project canceled, raising the academic wing as it's partially constructed, hauling all that material to the landfill, and then turning that back into green space. I can envision that he's getting a $2 million price tag, and maybe more. I don't know if that's going to be in the value engineering study or not. Also, contractors claiming overhead and profit for a canceled project. We know that's one of the articles in the scope or in the project manual. They are allowed to do that. That's contractual. I also realized I used to work construction management, and one of the things contractors give you is a schedule of values. And it occurred to me that in a schedule of values, Those folks have purchased a lot of materials, a lot of the specialty steels, girders, floor joists, columns, beams, etc., things like that. Electrical items, HVAC items, lighting, things like that. A lot of that stuff's been purchased, and the district is obligated to pay for that. And when it's canceled, that stuff goes away. We eat that. It's a loss. Additionally, I realized we financed a lot of this already, and we're going to be paying interest on it. And probably, I'm thinking, in the neighborhood of $3, if we throw this project away, we'll be paying an additional $3 or so million in interest. I'm kind of lowball numbers because I really think it's worse. So now we're up in the neighborhood of $13 million in losses, hard losses. I think they're really there, and I hope the value engineering study, perhaps our construction manager and architect can come up with those kind of numbers, saying, hey, here's what happens if you cancel. But here's another item too. If we cancel, PlanCon goes away, for sure. The $2 million energy grant goes away. Now that's $5.6 million in reimbursement. The previous board had already sent out for a PlanCon A and B finance work at Lowestoft Valley. That $5.6 million, that was the cash flow that was going to go to Lowestoft Valley. If we cancel this project out there, we're going to have to come up with or I don't know how much money you want to spend on Lowestoft, but we're going to lose $5.6 million of reimbursement that was destined for our people. We're pushing $18–20 million if we cancel the project. So I think our exposure is really, it's bad. It's bad. And I don't honestly, I'm for option 5. I'm for this new academic wing for one reason. The next 50 years of kids that come through our town, the next 7,000 kids that come through our town. That's why I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Pamela Nelson, 225 Benton Street, Leawood. I just want to say thank you for the olive branch that I just saw when you gave Mr. Kraft some more time. I realize time limits are time limits, and I realize why you have them, but it really showed a lot, and I appreciate it. Just seeing that. And I just want to see, and we all just want to see those, again, the working together and working from here. I appreciate it, and I think some others do too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Raker. I live up to Chestnut Street. And I'd like to just say that when all this started, there was one group of people who didn't want this building project and one that wanted the whole thing. And I think everybody has to realize that nobody's going to get what they want. We're going to have some of it, and we can't afford all of it. And the people spoke, and they said, we don't want all of it. And I think what your job is to figure out what we keep and what we don't. And you need to work together. This back and forth stuff isn't going to cut it. But something I've been hearing a lot about is transparency. Now, someone's been talking about it for a year, someone's been talking about it for about a month. But everybody's talking about transparency now. And I have a request / recommendation that I think that all of the documents, the contracts, all that for this project, because we hear people talking about the costs of canceling it, and some of the costs that they talk about are ridiculous. If that's true, then these contracts are the worst contracts ever written. But I propose that you put those contracts on the district website, where everybody can look at them and decide for themselves, what's this going to cost us to cancel this, to cut it back, to do whatever. There's a lot more we can do for transparency, but that's a good start. And that'll give everybody a better idea of what's really going on, what the options are. I mean, in the end, you're the ones that have to decide which option you take, but it helps if we see the information that you're using to make that. That's just my idea. I don't envy your position, but expect anybody here needs my help, but if you do, you know where to find me. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Renee Carey, 429 Cherry Street here in the borough. And building off of what one of the things Mrs. Pioli said, she acknowledged that let me think about this. Many of you, 5 of you, have only been on the job for about a month now. 4 of you have served previous terms and have been through these ropes before. So I wanted to make sure, if you look at the agenda for tonight, item 5C is a line item for board training, for conferences and seminars for board members. And there's $1,000 sitting there for all of you to use for professional development as school board members. And the Pennsylvania School Board Association just happens to have several upcoming trainings. On January 23rd, Mr. Snell, they're having Board President's Day, which sounds very exciting. It's going to be up at the Blast Office in Williamsport. And they're also having 2 other training sessions for new board members. One is February 13th at Mansfield University. If you prefer to travel west, State College on January 30th at the Nittany Lion Inn. So there are some in-person trainings you can attend. There's $1,000 sitting there that's been budgeted for professional development. And they also have some online resources. One of the courses they recommend all school board members do at least once a year is Gov 131, which talks about your role as a public official and full disclosure and ethics and all of those fun things. So, and I believe that is a webinar kind of self-study, doing your own case. So, just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of those upcoming opportunities and the fact that there is money there to help you cover those costs. So thank you very much.
Dr. Bowers, would you like to address?
I would be happy to. So I was able to confirm with PSBA today, they will be bringing a trainer to us on February 2nd in the evening. After long discussions with the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, we felt it was best to have trainers come to us so our entire board can be part of that training. I think it's very important for our new board members to get up to speed, so to speak, with all the rules and procedures, but it's also important for our board to work as a cohesive unit. And I felt that training, if we could do it together, under our roof, would be much more advantageous to our district. So we were able to confirm that, so they will be doing that for us.
But can I tell people? Is it okay if I tell people that it was my idea?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Judy Deacon. I reside at 431 Cherry Street here in the borough. I just had a couple of things I wanted to say. I was at the last meeting, and one thing is certainly can be said of the board members and of all of our taxpayers is we are all passionate. We are passionate about our education for our students, and I think the thing we have to remember is that we are all on the same team. We all want the same things. We want the best education for our students. And I personally want an education, not just an education per se, but an educational environment that will propel them into their future. And I don't want one that's just good enough. So what does that mean? I'm not saying what that means one way or another. I'm just saying that I want to have aspirations for our district that I can be proud of when I go out in the community and I talk about our district and talk about us having some vision and being progressive and not kind of being stuck behind, because I've worked in almost all the school districts in our county and other counties. And I have to say, we're not the most progressive, we're not the most visionary, and I think we can do better, and I would like to see us do better. And we can do that together. And I think the new citizens group, I think it would be terrific if the board could have a citizens advisory committee that could kind of be a liaison, maybe perhaps with the community. That group could meet and they could come up with the priorities that the community sees as the priorities, and then they could convey that to the board, perhaps have a report at meetings with the board. So I would be in full support, and then again, as Mike said, as Mr. Kraft said, that is really going to unify us, because we all do have that same goal, and it's going to propel us towards that goal in a much better way. I have one other point. I looked in the agenda and I saw that on their policy matters, it looks like you're going to vote to go to bi-monthly meetings. That scares me. We have a lot of work to do and a lot going on. So I just can't see how we can be productive and continue moving forward with bi-monthly meetings rather than monthly. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other public comments, we'll now move on to the action items. Mr. Secretary.
Great, thank you, Mr. President. This evening, you've received, members of the board, you've received copies of the General Fund and Cafeteria Fund Treasurers Reports, as well as the listing of invoices for payment for the General Fund, the Cafeteria Fund, and Capital Project Fund. We're presenting those to you this evening for your consideration of approval and payment of the bills.
Do I have a motion to approve the bills for the General Fund A, Cafeteria Fund B, and the Capital Project Fund C?
Mr. Hagan, make a motion.
You did, Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yes, I have a comment. As a finance committee chair, I have gone through, spent hours with the business manager, going through, learning about all the different codes and amounts, and asking many, many questions, and everything is in order. I would like to mention, though, that there's some items that I think the public should know about. One of which is that the general contractor, his bill, which is going to be paid tonight for $1,365,000, is not a penalty. It is for construction of our new technical shops, which if you haven't seen them, we can't see the inside now, it's construction site. They're absolutely fantastic. We also have a payment of $350,000 to Lecce Electric and $157,000 to the Farfield Company, who do the heating and air conditioning. Silvertip, we were paying them $107,000 essentially for plumbing, and the roofer, weatherproofing tech, $160,000. So the capital projects are moving ahead from the financial side of things, and the building is going to be state-of-the-art, beautiful technical shops for, and also it needs to be mentioned that not only is there wood, plastics, and metal, but there's also the only ag shops in the county and actually in the region, which is a very important function and they graduate some excellent people. That is all.
Mr. Snell?
Go ahead.
Question for Mr. Saul, please. The recent state budget passed. The money that was coming to Montoursville, is that reflected in any of these numbers?
No, Mr. McCleary, sorry, it takes me another month now to be on the call. This treasury report you see is through December 31st, 2015. The money was released in January, so it will reflect in the January treasurer's report.
I mean, obviously you're happy to see that.
Very happy. It takes a little of the pressure off.
All right. Do you know the actual number that's due, or is that something that you just look at your book and find out what it was?
The amount that was paid to the district is in excess of $3 million.
Thank you. Is that going to general fund?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, Mr. Snell, I'd like to have pulled from the capital project fund on the back page, check number 1023, Bassett Engineering, $12,492. I'd like that to be removed at this time. We've not seen a contract, nor have we seen any billing at all, or itemized bill. And I'd like to see an itemized bill for that amount, and I'd like to see a contract that says that we are obligated to pay that bill.
Second.
Any questions on comments on
Yeah, I have a
the?
comment. I have a comment, which I believe was made a couple months ago under the previous board, which is that if you have questions about some of the bills, that you should at least have the courtesy to let the business manager know or to meet with him, and he will be glad to show you all those things. Otherwise, this work has been done, and the amounts have been checked, and they're valid. So they need to be paid. So I recommend that we not suspend that, or that we pay those bills.
Mr. President, I saw the invoice. It just said engineering services. There was no itemized bill, in my opinion.
Professional services. Professional services, you don't have nuts, bolts, and other things. You have professional services.
But there's no itemized bill for what service he's done for us. Who he's contracted to. I guess I'm talking to the president, sorry.
Mr. Bassett. The board is going to vote to hold your check until a contract is signed. I think that would be a good idea how soon would you be able to get the contract?
I have no problem with that at all, and I did give Mr. Saul a contract tonight, and, but it does need to be looked at, and we take care of your next meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to pull check number 1023 from the Capital Project Fund, and we had a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Motion carries. The check will be pulled. Now, back to the original motion to approve payment for the general fund, cafeteria fund, and project fund, minus that one check. Any questions, more questions or comments? All those,
I'm sorry, just now.
yes.
As it relates to the payment, do you have an idea when that can be made pending Mr. Bassett's providing the necessary documentation? Would that be the next board meeting?
We would be able to okay that payment at the next board meeting, which is a work session, but we can vote on it.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you. We move on to action item 6, report of the superintendent, Dr. Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. President. My report starts with personnel matters. I know the board has reviewed the agenda, and this time I would like you to consider items A through F, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Snell, on 1A, the retirements of Mr. Craig Kurtz and Mr. Jeffrey Moore, I would vote to accept them with great reluctance. We're losing 2 fine administrators, and I wish them well in their future endeavors.
Thank you, Mr. Ruffing. Any more questions or comments?
I would just like to echo Mr. Ruffing's. I've worked with Jeff and Craig for many years through the fire service, and they are definitely dedicated and wonderful employees. So we're going to miss them.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? All those in favor of 1A through 1F approving? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now with that vote out of the way, I would like to congratulate Craig and Jeff on that decision. I have to say for the audience, as a superintendent, when you lose anyone from your leadership team, it's rather painful. I can assure you that I've done everything but beg and plead for those 2 to hang in there with us and go a little bit longer. But for them, I'm happy that they've made that decision and they are ready to pursue the next phases of their lives. Those 2 have definitely been true educational leaders, and please make sure you understand the difference. There's educational leaders and there's educational managers. Educational managers just make sure the building runs. Educational leaders make sure that good instruction occurs and the building runs smoothly and everything is done well. Those 2 individuals certainly are educational leaders. They're instructional leaders. They've been on the forefront of educational change. They're great leaders in terms of dealing with whatever is in front of them. And as we know, over the years, the state and many things have been challenging in public education. And those 2 have been able to handle all those challenges with great resolve. So I have to say that I will certainly miss them, and we have some work to do to figure out how we're going to replace those individuals and how we're going to continue that strong leadership moving forward. So Craig and Jeff, I'm not sure if you're here. If you are, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. we'll continue to work with you throughout the year, and I know you'll be model employees right up to the last day you walk out the door, and we're going to miss that leadership. Takes me to number 3, curriculum matters. At this time, I'd like to request board approval of the Montoursville Area High School course description catalog. Just a note that we do offer this for your preview online. It's several pages, so we made sure you had that document electronically to look through. There are no changes from this current school year, but it is important for us to get this approval taken care of because scheduling, believe it or not, will start very soon for next year. So for your consideration.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. We've had a motion to approve 3A curriculum matters, which is a request approval for the Montoursville Area High School course description catalog. We've had a second. Questions or comments?
Mr. Snell?
Yes.
Dr. Bauer?
Yes, sir.
Do you find this catalog to be much different than the previous year? Do you feel it to be pretty much the same?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you see any radical changes in any particular area?
No, sir.
I'm done, Mr. Snell.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Under policy matters, A, request board approval for revision of policy 006. This is for the second reading for your consideration.
Do I have a motion to approve policy matters A?
Motion.
A second.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Snell. I'm sorry. Mr. Snell, one of the speakers this evening made mention of this. In this, if you would like to make it clear to the public that this would not involve changing meetings to once every 2 months. Okay, the meetings will be held, continue to be held once a month, with a work session once a month, and that this is actually to change meeting times. And that was it, correct?
That is correct, and that's, if you didn't bring it up, I was going to.
Okay, I got it.
Maybe the wording should be changed because at least seems to be overlooked. The actual wording that we was changing it to said regular board meetings shall be public and shall be held at specific places at least once every 2 months. There seems to be a misconception that we planned on changing them every other month. We have no intention of doing that. So I would like to amend that sentence to say regular board meetings shall be public and shall be held at specified places at least once every 2 months at times, dates, and places to be determined at the organizational meeting in December each year. This time I'd like a motion to make that amendment to the policy change.
Motion to change.
Second. Questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Snell, just one more thing. I won't vote to approve that simply because and I realize it's different for everybody, but 6:30 meetings, personally, for me, too early. So that's the only reason, not, I just want to clarify that. There's others that so that's the only reason I would oppose that.
Any other questions or comments for the vote on the amendment?
Yeah. Mr. Ruffing, is there something about 7 o'clock? Or is there room here for compromise?
Sure. Mr. Lowe? You know what? Mr. Lowe, there's so many bigger things that I'd like to compromise with you on than meeting times. And this is a good start. I would go 7 o'clock. How about you?
I have no problem with 7:30?
I think what you need to do is, you have the motion on the floor to approve the policy change, so I think you need to do that, or not do it. And then if anyone wants to make a motion after that to change the meeting time to 7 o'clock, you do.
Right. Yeah, because the policy doesn't involve the time anymore, so we can pass for the policy change. And then if you want to make a motion to change the time to 7 o'clock for the board meetings, that would be fine when we vote on that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
That's what we're right. We're going to vote on the amendment to the policy, then you need to vote on the policy, and then you can make a motion.
We've had a motion and a second to vote on the amendment to the policy change. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries to amend the policy change. Now, we also have a motion and a second to change the policy as amended. Questions or comments?
Just, I think you, Mr. President, if I may, you may want to say to approve the policy on second reading as amended.
To approve the policy on second reading as amended. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Second? Opposed? Motion carries to change the policy, the wording. I would now like to make a motion to change the times of the meetings and the work